welcome to Wellness. I am your host, Linda Lonergan, Senior Clinical Nutritionist. I've worked in nutrition for 21 years, and I've worked in multiple hospitals, nursing homes, as well as a published author for many publications. I'm here to show you the very best your community has to offer in health, fitness, and well-being. Today, I am joined by an amazing woman, Susan Lauer, who is founder of Aspire Consulting. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks, Linda. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me to come sit with you and chat.
It's a pleasure to have you. So Aspire Consulting, please tell me how that all started.
Sure. I was a little bit tired being on the inside like you. I come from a background in healthcare and was looking for a way that I could work with my current business partner to have an impact on organizations and individuals from the outside. And so we hooked up with this great resource group and got started. That was about 12 years ago now.
And what kind of groups do you work with?
So we work with individuals in coaching. We also work with organizations. And we probably have the most fun when we work with organizations when we start at the top. A lot of time the people at the top don't think that they need any help, but we often find that if we start at the top, then we can get everybody in the organization speaking the same language about leadership and the way that things would run better.
Sure. And you indicated something in terms of 3 principles that you really work towards. Can you share about that, an example?
Well, one of the things that we had been talking about and where this conversation came from was we were talking about how to some of the work I do, and affirmations are part of the work that we do when we do goal setting.
Right.
And I thought that that was the silliest thing I had ever heard in my life. You're just going to say something and it's going to become true magically. And I took a deep dive into the science. And I know you recently had Kaye on, and she talked about some of that science there. But understanding that there's real power and science behind affirmations, and taking that to the next level. What else can you do? So there's a gentleman named Rick Hansen, and Rick Hansen wrote the book Rewiring Happiness. And what he says is that you can actually rewire your brain by the actions and the thoughts that you take, the behaviors and the thoughts. And some of those things are gratitude, are just loving where you are and loving what you're seeing. Actually, sometimes physically writing those things down if you can get multimodalities involved. So those are some important things in terms of rewiring your brain. And actually, if you go onto YouTube, you can find some really cool videos where you see the neurons connecting, making new neurons, pruning other neurons, and you can see the way that those things impact your brain. Another thing, another technique that we've talked about is the positive explanatory style. And that's how you respond to something. So a lot of times something will happen to somebody and they're like, this always happens to me every single time. I'm never going to get better. I'm always in bad luck. But if instead you see when something bad happens to you as something that's isolated, you see it as a one-time occurrence. And you understand that it's related to the circumstances that you find yourself in. And then you truly believe that you can overcome it. So just by that reframing, you're also reshaping your brain and the likelihood that you will overcome the problems that you're facing.
So what would be a typical sentence that you would indicate in terms of the positive explanatory that you shared?
Sure. It could be something like, even though this failure I had in business feels really bad, I know that it was just related to this one thing I did, and that I can do something different next time, and I will overcome it.
Right, so you're basically identifying the problem and then coming up with proactive solutions and then following it through. So that's interesting, very interesting. You also do something extremely valuable, and I took part in it. You want to explain about your testing?
Sure. We use, in the work that we do for coaching, one of the things that's real important is that people are able to understand who they are authentically. Mm-hmm. And when you understand who you are authentically, you can put yourself in position to work and to live in an authentic way. One of the profiles that we use talks about your decision-making biases. That's not the one you took. Another one of them talks about what motivates you to do what you do, and that was not the one you took. The third is it's the DISC profile. And the DISC is really a behavioral profile. So it looks at the way that you do what you do. So once you've got an idea and you're motivated to do it, how do you do it?
Right.
And there's 4 different styles.
Okay.
Decisive, interactive, cautious, stabilizing and cautious. Sorry, I got that backwards. And before I get to your style, an interesting fact that I don't think we talked about, just amusing fact, is William Marston, the gentleman who put the disc together, was also the guy who drew Wonder Woman.
Oh, wow.
So he was a well-versed man, lots of talents. So anyway, your disc style, we did your disc, and we did it in a group of colleagues.
Right.
And you were highest in your S. And so what's important for you is that stabilizing. It's nice pace, no surprises, you want to get it right. And your lowest was your decisive, which goes very well with a high S, a low D, because a low D also is somebody who wants no surprises and wants it, they're not going to push for something. They want to get it organized.
Interesting.
Instead.
Very interesting. Can you give an example of each of the letters that you shared on the disc? You said that there were other letters. And
so the decisive, those are people who want, they want to solve problems for the world. They want to get to it and they want to get it done. So when you're approaching, we use this for communications, when you're approaching somebody who's a decisive person, you need to come to them with the facts, get it out quickly, no dilly-dallying, just get to it and get it done.
Fascinating.
The next is an interactive or an influencer. And those people, they want to do a little bit of small talk first. So the decisive people see the influencers as really wacko because they just want to talk all the time. But they want to have some small talk, they want to build that relationship, and then they'll get down to business. So they're all about the relationship. The S, as I said, the stabilizer, it's about the pace. And then the C is the cautiousness. And people who are cautious want every single detail. So when you're approaching somebody who's cautious, you've got to go to them with all the facts, a bunch of charts, a pile of data, before they'll make a decision. And so we say that the S and the C are a little bit more change averse because they're cautious and they're stabilizing. They want the pace and the info. And the D's and the I's are more likely to be willing to jump into change, whether it's the right thing or not. So there's positives and negatives to each of the styles. I think the most important thing to know, though, once you know your style, is to start to pay attention to other people's style.
Interesting.
Because communication is enhanced when you can communicate in the other person's style. So I know you're an S. It probably bugged you that I was late in getting you some stuff for this show, right? And just whatever. But those things, I can approach you in that way. And I'm a D, I'm a high D, so you could approach me with short bullet points. That's all I want, that's all I need, and I'll make my decision.
No, that's great, yes. You're spot on in terms of decisiveness. I'd rather just linger and look at everything that's being presented to me before making a clear-cut decision. But I remember when I worked as a corporate scientist for 6 or 7 years that we had many of these tests, and I felt they were extremely valuable because any time that you're able to say, I'm doing this wrong, how do I improve myself to do it better or do it right or make my life easier? I always say that continued improvement is more valuable than delayed perfection. Yes,
absolutely. And though, I would say that when you know who you are, working in your strengths rather than worrying so much about what's wrong with you or what you need to improve. But we talk about being authentic, and being authentic is finding a way to work in your strengths rather than worrying about the other things. And you just hire somebody or get somebody to do what you can't do well. Exactly. For those things you don't do so well.
That's interesting. And I like the way you shared in terms of physiologically, directly in terms of health with business. Can you share with that?
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me about that, Linda. The things about the positive explanatory style and the way that you think about things, it literally impacts your physiology. So if you are having positive thoughts, you're releasing hormones that lead to longer, better cardiovascular health, better cancer outcomes, all sorts of things like that, literally related to your physical health. And when you're physically better, you're mentally better, and you can work better.
And also actually enhances norepinephrine, epinephrine, and cortisol. And helping. And I always say that business health is business wealth in the whole process. And also in terms of optimism. Helps to release those feel-good chemicals of serotonin.
That's right. As opposed to the stress hormones, right?
Yes.
That with the stress hormones, you think you're seeing a saber-toothed tiger around the corner every day. And your hormones are up. And then we live in a stressful world. So
yes, we do.
The things that happen that are positive to us, we tend to ignore. We say positive thoughts are like Teflon. They slide right off your brain. You don't pay attention to them. Negative thoughts stick like Velcro. So we need to change that paradigm. We need to make sure that we are here and now and paying attention to what's important.
That's such an important knowledge. I know you shared with me that I've tried to put into practice in terms of seeing something and saying that is the most outstanding, most beautiful thing I've ever seen of that particular thing. And any of those is so important today as far as the positive affirmations. Do you have a favorite quote or poem that you use to help yourself?
Since I was a kid, my favorite poem has been If by Rudyard Kipling. Part of the way that I was raised was to just be strong and kind of keep marching forward. And it still holds true to me today. I get that from my father. We talked about that. Our engineer military fathers with that, just keep on going on. And that's helped me through some things too.
And it probably makes you very good at what you do. And you also are on amazing roles, but you have a particular role that you do as a board of...
On the board, about 5 or 6 years ago, I joined the board of Career Support Solutions. And we've got 2 offices, one up in Putnam County, one in Westchester County. And we service a full range of people who need help getting employed, from people who are fairly low level all the way up to doing some work with veterans who need assistance in getting employed.
Which is absolutely wonderful. Well, I have to thank you so much
for
joining me today.
It's
been wonderful and enlightening, and everyone can be helped by finding out through Susan what your deficiencies, what your strengths are, so that you can do better in business and life. As I said, business health is business wealth. And remember, when you eat well and select better foods and become physically active, it's something you want to do for the rest of your life. Remember, moderation is key. Balance. Eat well and be well. Thank you so much for joining us.